Welcome back, class. So today's video, we're going to be going over the bare basics of the combat phase. So let's say we are our Bakugo here. We have our 6 hand size. So at the start of our turn, we've drawn our 6 cards. So the turn will be played. I'll put these down here for you guys to see. Let's say we've reached our combat phase. We're playing in our first turn. So we would probably ignore these since we can't attack on our first turn. You want to start your turn by playing foundations if you don't have any. So first turn you want to build as many foundations as possible. So you would play them by, let's say, selecting Pilot of the River Styx here. You'd play them into your card pool. So it's above the staging area, or stage. And you play it by making what's called a control check, which is to check the difficulty of the card, this number right up here, this 3, right here, against the control of the card from the top of the deck. So we would discard this card from the top of our deck, and as you can see, the control is a 5. So checking against a difficulty of a 3, we check the 5, this goes to the discard pile, that check passes. So this card was successfully played. There we go. Next, we move on to put another card into our card pool, this Aerial Recon. So we're going to place it into our card pool as an attempt to play the card. Now, for every card, So for every card that precedes the card you're attempting to play in your card pool, the difficulty, this 2 right here, gets increased by 1. So since we have a 2 difficulty with 1 card before it, we get +1 to our difficulty. So when we make our check, we check the control, which is a 5, it still passes. So that remains successfully passed. Now we could try to play another card, say another Aerial Recon, with its 2 difficulty, goes into our card pool. So 2 difficulty plus the 2 cards previous to it is a difficulty of 4. We make our control check, that is a 5. So again, it passes. So let's say we wanted to hold on to all the rest of the cards in our hand. I'll set those over here. Now we would move on to what's called the end step, which will allow us to clear our card pool from left to right. And any card that was any foundation or asset that was successfully played and the control check passed gets built down into our stage, like so. Attacks and actions are different, but for the clearing during our turn of any foundations that successfully passed, go into our stage. And then let's say we draw another 3 cards because we're a 6 hand size character. So our next cards that we play, let's say we attempt to play this Explosive Rebuke. This is a 5 difficulty card. We could play these in any order. That's one cool thing about the game. You can mix and match the order of any cards that you play, but generally speaking, with the progressive difficulty, you want to play your higher difficulty cards first, or at least as early as you can in your string. So we'll try to play this on a 5, and thankfully, I didn't even have to stack the deck, we checked a 3. So 2 things can happen here. We can choose to let the check fail, in which case the card we attempted to play would be discarded, and our turn would automatically end. As this is the first card we're attempting to play, probably not a good idea. So, remember we checked a 3, so the difference between our difficulty and our control is 2. So we're allowed to commit 2 foundations to turn this 3 into a 4, 5, which allows the check to pass. So that's the main reason we have foundations, is because they allow us to play higher difficulty cards at a much safer cost. And then let's say we wanted to play a 0 difficulty. That'd be 0 plus 1. We checked a 5. That passes. And then let's say we wanted to check with our Mop Strike here, which has a difficulty of 4. It'd be 4, 5, 6. We checked a 5 on our keeping Ares safe, so we could commit 1 foundation to make that a 6, and that passes. So you can play really any attacks, actions, assets. These are called playing forms, I should have started off with. Playing a card from your hand to your card pool during your turn at any point is called a form. So whenever you have abilities that are form abilities, this is when you can play them. I'll be going over abilities in another video set, but right now we're just talking about the basics of the combat phase and what goes on in the combat phase. Also, if an attack is played, it triggers something called the enhance step, which is actually going to be the next video, because the whole attacking and defending stage is going to be a little bit longer, and I don't want to run these videos too long on their own. So, if an attack has dealt damage at the end step, when you're clearing your card pool, let's say that our Mop Strike here dealt damage. We are allowed to take it and place it face down underneath our character, like so, as what is called momentum. And momentum is basically bullets in a gun. It's ammunition for effects that we can play later. And then, since this foundation passed, we're allowed to add it to our stage. And let's say that this attack dealt no damage. This attack would be discarded to the discard pile. And that is the basics of the combat phase. It is the phase during your turn where you play your foundations out so you can build them at the end of the turn. You play your attacks and hopefully do damage to your opponent, and you can just, pretty much it's where the bulk of the action happens. And I hope that this little foray into the combat phase was helpful to you guys. And until next time, class dismissed.